When people think of ancient Japan, they picture elegant temples, disciplined samurai, and traditions shaped by honor and restraint. Yet beneath this polished image existed a darker reality driven by superstition, rigid hierarchies, and extreme spiritual devotion. Long before Japan became the nation we know today, its people practiced rituals that now feel deeply unsettling. These were not hidden beliefs, but accepted parts of daily life. From human sacrifices sealed into castle walls, to human waste treated as valuable currency, to monks mummifying themselves alive, ancient Japan balanced beauty and brutality in ways that still disturb historians. Number 5. The human pillars beneath Japan's castles. During the Sengoku period, also known as Japan's Warring States era, the country was locked in constant conflict. Castles were not merely homes for lords, they were symbols of survival. If a castle failed, an entire clan could be wiped out. In this atmosphere of fear and desperation, superstition flourished. One of the most chilling practices of this time was hitobashira, or human pillars. The belief was simple but horrifying. If a living person were buried within the foundation of an important structure, their spirit would protect it. Earthquakes, floods, enemy attacks, these threats could be kept at bay through human sacrifice. One of the most famous stories associated with this ritual is tied to Maruoka Castle, which still stands today. During its construction in the 16th century, one of the castle walls repeatedly collapsed. Rather than questioning engineering flaws, the builders concluded that the gods demanded a sacrifice. A poor one-eyed woman named Oshizu was chosen. She agreed to be sacrificed on one condition, that one of her children would be raised as a samurai. The Lord accepted her terms. Oshizu stood in place as stones were piled around her, slowly crushing her to death inside the castle wall. Afterward, the structure stood firm. But the promise made to her was never honored. The Lord was reassigned to another province, leaving Oshizu's children behind. Local legend claims that every spring, when heavy rains arrive, the castle's moat overflows because Oshizu's spirit weeps for her abandoned sons. Even today, some locals swear they can hear a woman crying near the castle during violent storms. Whether legend or truth, the story captures how easily human life could be sacrificed for power and superstition. Number 4. When human waste became a valuable resource. Not all disturbing aspects of ancient Japan were violent. Some were simply unsettling, in a different way. One such practice was shimo, the large-scale use of human feces and urine as agricultural fertilizer. In Edo period Japan, cities were growing rapidly, and farms struggled to keep up with demand. With no chemical fertilizers available, farmers turned to the most abundant organic resource available: human waste. What began as a necessity soon evolved into a sophisticated economic system. Landlords who owned apartment buildings known as nagaya collected waste from shared toilets and sold it to farmers. This arrangement was so profitable that, in some cases, selling tenant waste earned landlords more money than rent itself. Waste from wealthier households was especially prized because better diets were believed to produce higher quality fertilizer. This system created a bizarre but efficient cycle. Elite households produced the most valuable waste, farmers used it to grow the best crops, and those crops were sold back to the same elite class. In a literal sense, society fed itself. Strangely, this practice had an unexpected benefit. Because waste was constantly removed from the city, Edo became one of the cleanest pre-industrial cities in the world. While European cities of the same era dumped waste into streets and rivers, Edo's waterways remained relatively clean, providing safer drinking water. But the cost was high for farmers. Handling untreated human waste exposed them to parasites, bacteria, and disease. Shimo remained common until the early 20th century, when commercial fertilizer replaced it, abruptly ending a system that had quietly sustained Japanese cities for centuries. Number 3. The absurd world of fart battle art. If some elements of ancient Japan were defined by violence and others by strict practicality, a few existed purely in the realm of the bizarre. Few artifacts capture this better than Higassen, a strange and unforgettable series of illustrated scrolls from the Edo period whose name literally translates to fart battles. Created by an unknown artist sometime in the 1600s, these scrolls depict scenes so absurd that they almost feel modern in their surreal humor. The artwork shows exaggerated, cartoon-like figures engaged in what can only be described as flatulence warfare. Men blast opponents into the air with explosive force, others smash through walls using gas like living siege weapons, and some scenes depict groups coordinating attacks with fans to redirect enemy fumes back at them. In one image, a single well-aimed blast sends an old man flying, while another scene resembles a full-scale battlefield where gas replaces swords and arrows. At first glance, Higassen feels childish, crude, and intentionally ridiculous. But its very existence reveals something important about Edo-era culture. Humor in pre-modern Japan was not always subtle or refined. It could be vulgar, exaggerated, and unapologetically physical. Laughter did not always come from elegance. It often came from shock, embarrassment, and absurdity. Some historians suggest that Higassen may have served as satire, mocking social hierarchies, political authority, or even foreign influence during a time when Japan was becoming increasingly aware of the outside world. Others believe the scrolls were simply meant to amuse, offering comic relief in a rigid society governed by etiquette and class. Whatever their true purpose, these scrolls challenge the idea that ancient Japan was always solemn and restrained. Instead, they reveal a culture that could be playful, grotesque, and wildly imaginative, qualities that continue to surprise modern viewers centuries later. Number 2. Samurai, apprentices, and forbidden bonds. Samurai are often portrayed as paragons of honor, discipline, and moral clarity. While they followed the code of Bushido, their private lives often tell a far more troubling story. One widespread and socially accepted practice, shudo, meaning the way of the young. This referred to formal relationships between adult samurai and adolescent male apprentices, known as wakashu, often between the ages of 10 and 15. These relationships combined mentorship with sexual intimacy and were governed by written contracts that demanded absolute loyalty. Samurai trained their apprentices in swordsmanship, discipline, and warfare. In return, the boys were expected to provide companionship and intimacy. The relationships were expected to be monogamous between men, though both parties were free to engage with women. The sexual aspect typically ended when the apprentice reached adulthood, though emotional bonds often continued for life. Disturbingly, this practice was not hidden or taboo. It was normalized among the warrior class, and many famous historical figures participated in it, including Oda Nobunaga, one of Japan's most powerful warlords. By modern standards, Shudo represents clear exploitation and abuse. But within its historical context, it was considered a legitimate step in a young warrior's education, revealing how dramatically moral frameworks can change over time. Number 1. Monks who mummified themselves alive. Perhaps the most extreme and unsettling practice in Japanese history is sokushinbutsu, or self-mummification. Unlike Egyptian mummies prepared after death, these monks willingly transformed themselves into living relics through years of ritual suffering. The process began with a diet called mokujiki, meaning tree eating. For nearly 3 years, monks survived on pine needles, seeds, bark, and resin, stripping their bodies of fat and muscle. Next, they drank toxic tea made from tree sap, killing bacteria inside their bodies and preventing decay. When death approached, the monk was placed inside a small underground chamber with a bamboo tube for air. Seated in meditation, he rang a bell daily to signal he was still alive. When the bell stopped, the chamber was sealed completely. After another 1,000 days, disciples reopened the tomb. If the body showed no decay, the monk was declared enlightened and displayed in a temple as a living Buddha. If decay had occurred, the body was quietly reburied, and the attempt was considered a failure. Sokushinbutsu was banned in the late 19th century, but several mummified monks remain on display in northern Japanese temples today. Their preserved faces are haunting reminders of devotion taken beyond the limits of human endurance. Ancient Japan wasn't just a land of beauty, honor, and tradition. It was also shaped by fear, sacrifice, and beliefs that pushed human limits to terrifying extremes. These examples remind us that history isn't always comfortable, but it's always revealing. If this deep dive into the dark side of ancient civilizations made you see the past differently, make sure you like and subscribe for more unsettling, forgotten stories that history rarely talks about.